Three, two, one. And we are live. This is Social Monkey number 4. And would you believe it? Twice in 2 weeks. Unfortunately, my very special guest, Mr. Mason, who's going to debate me relating to Liverpool and Manchester United, he's unfortunately had a little bit of trouble, bless him. And I saw him in the morning yesterday, and perhaps it's something we could discuss on the podcast, but unfortunate circumstances, let's just say, and we're rescheduling for hopefully during the week this week, so there'll be another upload coming up shortly. Again, with my other guests as well. A lot of people are very busy at the moment, and because of COVID and all of the social distancing bits and pieces, the bubbles that you're in, it's very hard to try and get people to come to me and obviously be able to have a chat with me without obviously breaking too many rules and bits and pieces like that. So things will start picking up over the course of the next few weeks, I'm sure. So I'm taking this opportunity again. It's only me just speaking today. But my main train of thought today is around the taxation and legalisation of cannabis. Now, I've touched on it a couple of times on my podcast. People probably go, oh, is that it again? Here we go. But I wanted to put across more, how can you say, better statements rather than my personal opinions, okay? Because there's a lot of stigma behind it. God knows why, you know. It really does baffle me how people haven't taken this fantastic plant and made it into something that can be used in everyday life, rather than just thinking about it's just some lazy man's drug who sits there smoking weed all day, watching cartoons. Don't get me wrong, there's people out there that do that, you know. When I was younger, I was one of those people. But let's put it in perspective, okay? So I went onto the NHS website and I thought, right, let's do it properly. Let's look at the medical facts. So I put into Google first, facts on cannabis. And the first thing that come up, it says cannabis is a drug. But then underneath cannabis is a drug, it's got, people also search for cocaine, heroin. I was like, how has that got any relevance to cannabis whatsoever? They don't have any traits which are the same. Cocaine and heroin are bodily addictions which, if you take on a regular basis, can kill you. Now, cannabis is a little bit different. Cannabis is a mentally addictive drug if it's taken on a regular basis or taken regularly when you're young. Because when you take it, obviously it affects your brain. It slows down your perception of time. It makes you happy, makes you laugh, makes you cry. But only 10% of people that use it regularly, this is fact, 10% of people, based on research, will become dependent on cannabis. Now, the other problem is with cannabis as well, that it has a threshold where people become susceptible to not feeling the effects of it anymore. Again, you know, that would then put the little seed of saying, well, someone's going to look for a better high. Someone's going to look for that, going chasing, hence the reason why the cocaine and the heroin come up. Now, addictive personalities vary in every different way. I've spoke about it before. You know, I suffer from a gambling addiction, always have, ever since, you know, from what I can remember. And growing up with gamblers, having a Las Vegas fruit machine in your bedroom at the age of 2 years old doesn't really help that factor. But addiction can be mental and physical at the same time, and cannabis doesn't have that physical addiction there. Now, the risks of it, again, as I went onto the NHS site, the main problem that they have with it is schizophrenia. That's the main focal issue that comes up on the NHS website. Now, people can develop schizophrenia from taking cannabis, that's fact, because it degenerates your brain cells. Obviously, it cuts off the oxygen to your brain when you're smoking. You know, that's pretty evident. But again, schizophrenia doesn't occur in everybody. Again, if you've got family heritage with people who've got schizophrenia, then you would look at it as a sensible person and go, is it really going to be for me? You know, do I really want to go down the road that I saw my relative in? Nah, nobody wants to do that. The other obvious effects, you know, when you smoke cannabis, obviously you're polluting your lungs, you can cause lung cancer, you know, get bronchitis on a regular basis. Obviously taking cannabis when you're pregnant isn't a great idea, because obviously smoking while you're pregnant obviously harms your baby, regardless of the effects that cannabis probably would have on that unborn child. No one really knows, because there isn't any definitive evidence on that either. But that's the thing, schizophrenia, dangers of smoking cannabis to your lungs, and pregnancy. 3 main things that the NHS website state on there. Now, you guys feel free to go onto the NHS website. You'll see exactly what I saw, you know. And it doesn't give you a good enough reason why people recreationally and medically shouldn't be taking this. I looked at the help side of things on the NHS as well. So when people say, oh, you know, you smoke that shit, you know, it sends you loopy, it sends you... And it does, but it also does fantastic things for the human body. It helps people with multiple sclerosis. Now, that is an absolutely horrendous disease. A horrendous disease. And for a plant that's grown in a pot underneath a bleeding light to assist somebody with that horrible disease, I mean, that's number one. Tick straight away. Why wouldn't you legalise it? That helps people with that horrible disease. Then, people suffering from chemotherapy recovery. It helps them reduce the pain. People with glaucoma. Now, that's an eye disease for people, you know, really, really, really bad. For people who don't know what it is, I suggest that you look it up, because I'm no doctor and I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of it. But people who are football, men, women, children, are referred to Edgar Davids. Edgar Davids had glaucoma, and he changed it round and made his own glasses that he wore on a regular basis on the pitch. Made him look absolutely phenomenal. You know, black guy, dreads, pucker glasses. He was on all the Nike adverts, and he was Dutch. And it comes from a place where it's been legal for decades, absolutely decades. And it also helps some cases of epilepsy, especially within children. Again, that's a very broad spectrum, because obviously some people have other underlying conditions with epilepsy, but it can help. We've also, some people who are obviously advocates of cannabis have seen a YouTube video of a gentleman who has Parkinson's disease. It's quite an old video now, but a gentleman comes to his door and you see the man who's suffering, you know, shaking and struggling to walk using a stick. And the guy says, look, okay, so lay down on your settee, you know, clearly, I think he was a doctor, don't hold me to that, but I think he was a doctor, because he brought round a cannabis pen, so it had oil within the pen, it had like a roller on top. And all the guy done was just sort of roll it round his mouth, put it back down. The guy was like, look, easy, don't have too much of it, because obviously, you know, it's going to put you to sleep. So they fast forward the video, and the guy wakes up about 15, 20 minutes later after having a snooze, and he's got no tremors. He's got no tremors. And he wakes up and goes, are you hungry? And he stands up straight, holds his hand out. Now, it might be a ploy. Who knows? But if it is real, surely that's another good reason to have it legalised. There's no recorded deaths of cannabis use as well. One thing that I find baffling, you think of all of these other legal drugs with cigarettes, nicotine, alcohol, all of that's been taxed and legalised, and it kills millions across the world every single year. But they're happy to legalise it and tax it. Now, I'm not looking for alcohol or cigarettes to be banned, because that's ridiculous. A lot of people smoke and drink and enjoy it. More power to them. I've got no problem with that. I like a drop of whiskey every now and again. Again, I don't drink every day. I keep a bottle at home. When I fancy a drink, I'll have a little bit of whiskey. Try avoid beer at all costs. Recipe is I'll drink 4 and I'll be on my arse. Or I'll throw it back up and it's just a waste of money. Also, with no recorded deaths, it makes music sound brilliant. It makes colours in pictures look amazing. It makes food taste phenomenal. And it makes sex feel great. It's fantastic. And again, if you're taking this every day, then you're going to go on a downward spiral. It's like anything. If you drink every day, you're going to go downhill. If you smoke 20 fags a day, your lungs are going to go downhill. If you smoke weed every day, you're going to go downhill. Now, when we're taxing cannabis, if it ever happens, I mean, if there was any way that anyone was going to win a general election after Boris is in charge, even if Boris does get the balls to come out and actually go, all right, we'll tax it, we'll legalise it for recreational use and for medical purposes as well. Loads of different ways that we can make this work. So, taxing the product itself, we don't tax it from source. If we get farmers, I've said this before, if we get farmers to grow it, get them purpose-built warehouses where they can just grow it inside with the lights and everything else, you know, it'd be absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. Let the government build, you know, these containers that they could build. We've seen it with the police putting out these, cannabis farm found in the top of someone's roof. Millions of pounds worth of cannabis recovered from a warehouse from wherever. That's the point people are missing. Millions of pounds worth. Taxed money which is going into pockets of undesirable people that are then giving this drug, so-called drug, to kids to push. Now, if you were to take that away, where does that leave criminals? That leaves criminals to deal with the hard stuff. And then that's where police can then jump on board and go, look, we haven't got to worry about the weed anymore. The government's taking care of that. We can now concentrate on getting the people that are shipping in the heroin, the cocaine, and all of the crystal meth and all that other horrible shit that people are taking that makes their faces and their bodies turn to complete fucking mush. Now, taxing it, we should tax it from the sales and marketing perspective. So once the farmers have made it, packaged it, do what they've got to do with it and ship it out to different distributors, that's where it starts then getting taxed. Package it, mark it up to whatever you want it to do. Now, each farmer should be given a licence to grow it. And if someone wants to grow it independently, then they need to apply for a licence from the government directly. Figures and prices, I mean, that would be something for the government to come up with. You know, I'm no mathematician and I'm no accountant in any way, shape or form. But if you can charge for a fucking TV licence, you can charge for a cannabis licence. People aren't going to be growing it in mass production, especially if they're growing it at home. You know what you're putting in it. You know how strong that you want it. It's done. That's your responsibility. But then if you're doing it from the farmer's perspective and then getting rid of it in that way, you think of all the trade around the world that they could make. I said this before, you imagine getting up every morning, right? Every morning you've got to plough the fucking field, you've got to milk the cows, you've got to get the eggs from the chickens, you've got to kill the pigs for the bacon, you've got to, you've got all this horrible shit to do, and they don't get enough. People who put food on our tables on a regular basis, farmers, butchers, all of these people, they don't get enough money. They really don't. So if you were to throw cannabis into a farmer's working day, Christ, it would just be a massive boost to the farming economy in Britain. We've got plenty of land, and I'm telling you now, if we keep building these poxy flats everywhere for these private investors to then sell on for shit money, because it's all it is plasterboard and brick, and it looks fantastic, but then it deteriorates within 10 years and it looks shit, and someone's paid 400 grand for that flat. Instead, we could have the farmers have these fantastic crops of cannabis all over the place, and all of that taxed money with people purchasing it could go back into the economy, using it for public services, using it for the NHS, using it for the police force, using it for the fire service. All of these different government places that need money can get it from cannabis. It's easy. People will buy it. People will buy it in mass. And there'll be a lot happier people in Britain, a lot happier. Now, adding VAT to cannabis, an extra 20%, I ain't going to moan. If it was legalised, extra 20%, fantastic. You know, as long as we get it and people are getting paid for it, then, you know, it's something that needs to be done. One thing I do advocate, though, it does have to be restricted to the age of 21. 21 and up. I think smoking it at the age of 16 to 18, that could give detrimental effects to the younger generations. Being a cannabis smoker when I was younger, you know, it was pretty much every weekend, every single weekend, bang, 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 always having a joint. You know, through school, you know, all that. It was always there. It was always available to us. It hasn't affected me. Hopefully it hasn't anyway, you know, family, kid and whatever. But I think looking down the line, if you were to start giving 16 and 18-year-olds the licence to go and smoke weed, like the NHS said, it can affect brain development in teenagers. So even though you're classed as an adult when you're 18, you're still in that sort of bracket where you're still growing, your body's still developing. Because I know full well when I was 18, I don't look anything like that now. So I know full well that my brain's developed in a different way, but if I wasn't on a specific path and all I'd done when I was a teenager was consistently smoke weed and I didn't do anything, it is going to have a detrimental effect on us. So I would say 21 has got to be the mark-up point for purchasing or growing cannabis. I think that's a sensible way to go about it. We've all seen what happens to 18-year-olds when they first get their chance to go out and have a beer. Ends up in either rows, sick, or hospital admissions. I've been there, you know, and I'm sure plenty of you have been there as well. 18 years old, yes, go and get on it, way. You know, beers, vodka, shots, blah, 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 all the rest of it. And then all of a sudden you're hanging off the end of your friend, spewing out the car or outside the kebab shop, you know. It's not a nice look. It really ain't. So 21, I think that's a sensible markup for it. Moving on to decriminalising it completely with the legalisation. Previous convictions of what people have had for growing cannabis, all right, I'm not happy about it, but you can't change what you've already done. At the time, it was illegal, and if people have been done for it, you know, that was the law when it was. But if they change it in the next year or two, if they change it, so much free space will be given up in prisons, so much police time can be concentrated on concentrated on more important matters. I mean, for example, I know full well, over the course of the last few weeks, there's been multiple stabbings, multiple robberies of bikes, people's personal property. As I said, there was a stabbing only the other day in Shoebury, you know, for a fight outside either a kebab shop, a bookies, or, you know, wherever it was. These people are desperate, and the police need to be on form to be able to make sure that they can deal with these people, whatever their issues are. If I've got a police officer coming over and harassing me for smoking a joint, when 5 miles down the road there's some geezer getting held up with a knife, getting robbed up, what's the more important police issue? Pretty fucking obvious, I think. And I'm not going to start ribbing the old bill. They've got a job to do. You know, I fully support the police, but I don't support the way that people who take cannabis are dealt with. Having it as a Class B drug is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. The guy, the top medical practitioner from, I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago now, was actually sacked for saying that cannabis was less harmful than alcohol. And they didn't like it. The government didn't like it because, unfortunately, some people have got fingers in pies in the government, which will then hinder their profits of what they'll make. Why do you think Brexit took so long to get done? Everybody voted, it was done. But who opposed it? You've got all of these people campaigning saying, oh, we didn't want to leave. That's fine. The country voted, we wanted to leave. But it was the politicians that kept it running. It was them who kept it going. Because why? Because all of their interests abroad, they had money there. And if you can't get your money out of a country that you're they're going to lose out. Stock markets have crashed. Again, we're in recession. Again, what is a fantastic opportunity to get this country out of recession and move forward by putting money back into the system. Rather than paying for foreign aid, rather paying for wars that we don't need to be a part of, rather than paying, the banks to get out of the shit because they've pissed about on the stock market or they've been lending too much money and their interest rates, they can't cover it. The public have bailed them out too many times, and now it's the point where the public need to stand up and go, look, I would say at least let's pick a ballpark figure out the fucking area. Let's go, what? I'd say 60% of this country, let's say the British Isles, and we'll throw Ireland in there as well, they're not part of us, but they should be. I like the Irish. 60%, I'd say, of people have either tried or regular smokers of cannabis in the British Isles. Easy. So then you take out like the older generation, who thought it was gonna, kill you inside. We'll take out, obviously children, because they're counted as a population. Obviously they're not smoking it. But if you put that 60%, okay, everywhere in the country is different for weed prices. Everywhere's different. Some people will pay, 50 quid a gram. Some people will pay £10 a gram, depending on where you're buying it, who you're buying it from, the strength and the, what sexy name it's been given. Then you divide that by how many people are in the country. So, what is it? So many million in the country. Take 60% of that figure and then times it by, I don't know, let's say 240. Let's call that an ounce. Add 20% to that for value-added tax, and then times that by 10. If you were all to do that, right, look at your calculator and see how many fucking zeros there are. Think how much of that tax could go back into the country. Unbelievable. So the other thing I wanted to look at as well is limiting the strength of THC, because, damn, I've had some psychedelic hits on some weed over the years, and there's been some that taste like absolute shit. We've all been there. But I think it should be looked at like alcohol. For example, you buy 20 cans of Foster's or Strongbow, whatever your can of choice is, 4%, 5%, depending on which one it is, and you're looking to pay, I don't know, £10 to £18 for a case of 20, depending on where you're buying it. Now, relatively cheap, I would say, 4%, 5% alcohol content. You drink all of that, you're going to be battered, but it's going to take you a while. Then you look at the whiskey. 70 cl of JD whiskey, you're looking at £20, £25, depending on which one you're buying again. That's 40% alcohol. You neck that as quick as you try and drink beer, you're going to be battered. Absolutely, you're going to be sick, pretty much. So you've got to do the same with weed. If you're going to grow some out-of-this-world, spacey stuff that's going to send you to another planet, that's got to be more expensive than the standard stuff that's just going to make you sit back, relax, watch telly after you've been a hard day at work, and then it puts you to sleep. And people should have that choice. I like whiskey, I don't like drinking beer, so I'd like to have 3 or 4 whiskies, feel pissed, and that's enough for me, rather than trying to go for a whole fucking case, develop a beer belly, some proper man tits as well, from consistently drinking beer. Doesn't do you any favours. Nor does whiskey, because obviously that ruins your liver quicker. But again, if you were to do the same with cannabis, if you were to do the same with that, then you've got a good baseline to be able to work with people, understand people's needs. What do people like more? People don't really want to be going to outer space every single time. That's why when people go to a pub, I really fancy a pint. We fancy a nice, fresh, cold pint. So you go into a cannabis cafe. You know what? I've got stuff to do today. I'll just have the regular. I'll just have a normal Jimmy. I don't need no spacey stuff today. That's the way it should be looked at. Cafes, bars and restaurants could all benefit from selling cannabis as well. Imagine if being a restaurant, right? You replaced alcohol with cannabis, all right? Guarantee you're going to be selling more on your fucking dessert menu. Oh, yes. Desserts will be going through the roof. Because if you can have your main meal, smoke a joint, come back in, and then old garçon comes up to you and goes, would you like to see the dessert menu? Fucking hell, yeah. Show me that cheesecake. Show me that apple pie. Where's the ice cream? Where is it all at? We want some of that. It's going to happen. But, again, there's another bad side to that because people like having a drink when they're eating. So you need to distinguish which is which, because consuming alcohol and cannabis on the same premises is always a no-no. People who are regular smokers know that you should smoke before you drink. Do not drink and then smoke, because it is an absolute ruiner. If you like seeing the room spin, then do it the wrong way round. But I would say that they shouldn't be consumed on the same premises. Really, 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 really dangerous. Only reason being is that drinking a lot of alcohol already puts you in a comatose state. So then putting more cannabis into your body after all of that alcohol, you know, it ain't going to do you any good. And trust me, I've been there plenty of times, and people have seen me go, frying up, can't see what I'm doing, can't walk straight. It's not good. It really isn't. So regulation of certain places needs to be done. But what do you do going forward? Do people actually think that it's as bad as it is? I mean, I'd like to hear your comments. If people disagree with me or agree with me, I'd love to hear from you. I really, really would. I know for a fact it has had detrimental effects, cannabis, on friends that I know. I'm not going to say who they are, and it'd be unfair. And if someone wanted to mention it to me directly on the show, then yeah, that's great. But I've seen people go in reverse, where they'll go to work, they'll come home, they'll roll a joint, they don't move, unless people come to them. Now, what that does is that alienates you from social circles. Especially at the moment, people need each other. A lot of the time, when people consistently smoke it on their own, they're happy in their own little bubble. But what happens is the rest of the world moves on, and you're still stuck in that bubble. And when you come out of the real world and you look around, you don't realise what you've missed. You don't. And then that depresses you, and then that puts you in that vulnerable mental state, which unfortunately people have come across now, especially through COVID, especially through this now. Mental health is a massive factor in public society, and it needs to be looked upon on a regular basis. If you've got friends that smoke weed, that live on their own and don't have kids, make sure you talk to them on a regular basis. These people aren't fucking aliens. These people need someone to talk to, but sometimes they've been stuck in their ways so much, it's hard for them to come out and talk about it. And then that's what moves on to the schizophrenia and the paranoia side of things, because these people are cooped up in their own properties or wherever, consistently smoking. They're thinking about stuff, but they're not talking to people. Oh, yeah, you know, what happens if this person hears about what I'm doing? Oh, you know, the eyeballs are looking round, you know, you're looking out your window, you know, suspicious, knock at the door, it's only the postman, but all of a sudden your panic-stricken hands are vibrating because you don't know who it is. Is it the police? Is it this person? Is it the council? Is it my landlord? Whoa! You know, everyone gets a bit panicky. So I think when you move forward in your life, if you've taken cannabis on a regular basis, just cut it out a little bit. It don't hurt. Just use it of an evening. Use it like people use it with alcohol. Step back. Look at what you're doing. Is it benefiting you? Is it really? I'm an advocate for cannabis, but I'm not an advocate for overuse. Like I said, I've got friends that have been in that position and they don't go anywhere. And the other problem is that when you know someone smokes at their home, a lot of people who they know who smoke will go to their house. So again, they'll have their own little bubble of people that will consistently go around there and go, it's all right, I've got my mates, they come and see me all the time. But what they don't understand is that these mates who come around and have a smoke are leading regular lives. They've got families, they've got this, they've got that, they've got loads of things going on. But your mate, he sits there smoking weed all day, he hasn't got anything. He relishes that time that he spends with his friends, but he won't go out and spend it with other people, meet new people, worries about what they look like. Again, the mental health side of things. And this is where people need to be more smarter with it. Rather than it be going, yeah, come on, let's go and get some weed in, yeah, I'm battered, you know, we need to be more sensible. We need to take it more as a supplement, and it's already shown that works through CBD. CBD has obviously worked and is now being sold in different places across the country because it has no psychoactive effect. Now, I've spoken to people that have smoked CBD weed, have also taken the drops and the creams and bits and pieces like that, and they say it works, which is great, absolutely great. But again, it's not what it's supposed to be. The government moan that cannabis has been turned into skunk and it's more, you know, psychoactive. That's right, that people have done that. But if you're going to push for something that, okay, relaxes you temporarily, it's still a man-made way of making it weaker. People don't want it weaker. People want it for what it is. Don't want to be messed about with. Again, I'm an advocate for the CBD stuff because it works for different ailments, especially with, you know, I've experienced it at the moment. Starting to suffer from my fingers getting a bit fat through consistent use, me being a hard worker and all that. I've actually got swollen fingers, which might have resulted in me having rheumatoid arthritis, if I can say it right. Rheumatoid arthritis, there we go. I wake up in the morning and my fingers feel like they've got elastic bands in them. Feels terrible. Now, again, I've obviously sought medical advice about this, and there's not really much that you can do other than exercises for your fingers, making sure, you know, you're not keeping them in a set position for a long period of time, making sure you're taking like cod liver oil, you know, those things like that just to try and help me. But I'm telling you now, the thing that really helps me most is that I'll smoke one and I'll forget that I've even got the pain in my fingers. Don't even feel it. Go about my day on the weekend. Don't even feel it. Don't even feel it at all. Now, that could be just my brain cutting out the sensory pain to my finger. Might be that. Or it might be a painkiller, just like paracetamol. But it's not man-made. It's made out of the ground. God made it, apparently, if God made everything on this earth in the Old Testament, as he does, you know, how can you ban something that was made by God and then enhanced by humans, which was given by God? God gave us free will to make things as we wanted, and that's what we're doing. But again, these laws come back into effect where, you know, you're scrutinised and you look down upon for smoking weed. It's ridiculous. It needs to change. It really, really does. Now, one thing that I did want to bring up as well on the cannabis side of things is that a lot of people will say that it moves you on to different drugs. Now, speaking from experience, I don't think it moves you on to different drugs. I think it's the circles you reside in. Now, for the people that I grew up with over the years, multiple people, no names mentioned, but other drugs were floating around. Nature of the beast. You've got a choice. Go back to the free will of God. You've got that choice to say, that's not for me. That really isn't. For one example, I went to a party, and this party was with multiple people I knew, multiple people I didn't know. This was going back a few years now. There were some ravers there, people who enjoy hard house, you know, all that sort of stuff. 18, 19, 20, 21, in that sort of age bracket. I've turned up, rolled myself a joint, sat there with my whiskey, chatting to a few people, and I've seen all these lads. Yeah, we've got some ket. I'm looking, I thought, fucking, that's the horse tranquiliser shit. Now, I've heard about it, not something that I really want to take at all. You know, if it's going to put a horse on its fucking back, what's it going to do to you? Well, the proof was in the pudding. I sat there and watched these lads take this ketamine stuff, right? And no word of a lie, right? They turned into the Walking Dead, and within about 15 to 20 minutes, one of the lads shit himself. Absolutely disgusting. He stood up and went, I don't feel right. And then he turned round and there was just fucking runny shit all down his fucking back, legs, in his shoes, all over this poor person's bleeding sun lounger. At first it was funny, but then you realise that now that has just put someone where they can't control their fucking bodily functions, and you call that a good time. I've got to say no. I really have. You know, and that's where you look at you've got to take a step back. Anyone younger than me listening to this, right? Take a step back and look at where you are, who you're hanging around with and what they're doing. Because these people can be your friends, but you don't have to do what they're doing. The monkey see, monkey thing. Fucking get it right, Dan, come on. Monkey see, monkey do thing. It don't work for people because you know that there was probably one guy there that took that ketamine before and he knew what it was like. I think the guy that shit himself didn't know what he was in for. An hour later, all four of them were on the grass, barely moving, dribbling, looking a complete fucking mess. Now, it doesn't affect everybody that way. I can appreciate that. But when you look at what cannabis does to you, and then what cocaine does to you, and then what alcohol does to you, what heroin does to you, what crack does to you, what crystal meth does to you, ketamine does to you, I mean, the comparisons are fucking massive, absolutely massive. So when people say it leads on to other drugs, no, it doesn't. It's the circles you hang around in, because cannabis is the easy go-to point. If you want to feel a little bit different from taking alcohol every weekend, try cannabis. It's not going to kill you. It's not going to hurt you. If anything, you might feel a bit jittery and a bit sick for the first time because your body's never experienced it. But I guarantee you're not going to fucking shit yourself. You're not going to jump out of a window. You're not going to do all of this crazy shit that people seem to think that cannabis does to you. It doesn't work that way unless it's consistently used on a regular basis, which then can lead to schizophrenia. And it's the same with alcohol. If you consistently drink alcohol every single day, everybody knows what it does to you. I've seen what it does to people. It killed my father. My dad died from alcoholism at the age of 32. Now, if that's not a wake-up call for anybody, I don't know what is. 32 years of age, right? Accomplished footballer at the age of between 16 to 18. Goes out, and what's he do? Goes out on the beer with the boys. And what happens? Gets glassed, loses his eye. Career over. Then what happens? Boom. Falls into the alcohol lap. Used to drink every single day. Every day without fail. Used to go to work. My fridge had more beer in it than food. And that's not knocking my mum either, because my mum loved my old man. My mum done everything she possibly could to protect me. And my dad wasn't a horrible person. He was an alcoholic. And that changes people in a absolutely terrible way. And the result is it ended up killing him. And I watched that happen. As a 7-year-old boy watching your father die of alcoholism at the age of 7 years old, it's a terrible thing. Now, I'm over what I saw. I'm over what I've, that sort of stuff, because it does affect you as a child, but it doesn't define you. That's why I gravitate towards cannabis more. I know it's not going to kill me. I know it's not going to make me weak. I know it's not going to make me turn against my family, because that's what alcohol does to people if it's consumed on a regular basis. It really does. And take it from me, I'm sure there's other people out there who've experienced similar things to me. But cannabis doesn't kill you. Alcohol can. Alcohol can kill you. I said, just let that sink in. 32. Most of the people I know are either coming up to that age now, or are older. Some of the people who know me remember my old man. Some people don't. But when he weren't drinking, loveliest man in the world. Absolutely loveliest man in the world. Couldn't fault him. When he was out with his mates, people in the pubs, used to love him. Used to buy everyone around. Used to love the people having a drink with him. But when it came to the time where he didn't have to drink and he'd had too much, that's where it went wrong. And that's where it turned him into the person that he wasn't. And that's what's put me off alcohol. I said, I do like a drink, but when you see that and you think that, how can you wake up every day wanting to feel like that, and then look around at your family and look at the pain and the misery and the heartache that you've caused, all because you wanted to have a drink? You know, it baffles me. It really does. It really does baffle me. But again, there's two sides to every coin, because you've got the pub man and you've got the family man. And alcoholics can't distinguish between the two. They can't. It's impossible. They have no sense of regard at all for other people's feelings when they've had too much to drink. Fuck it, he's a cunt. Fuck it, he's a wanker. You're a bitch. You fucking said I couldn't do this. Whack, 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 whack. You know, it happens. Domestic violence through alcohol on a regular basis happens across the country, if not fucking worldwide. Guaranteed, people who smoke weed don't have too much domestic abuse. Do you know why? Because they're not fucking arguing. They're laughing. They're laughing together. Laughing as a family. Now, when you flip the coin and say that you've just said that, you know, if you smoke weed regularly, you know, it can put you within yourself. It can. But if you're upfront and honest about it, rather than seeing it as something that you should be quiet about, you're going to start feeling paranoid, aren't you? If you really enjoy something and then the rest of the world looks upon you as like, oh, he smokes weed. Oh, don't talk to him. Oh, don't do this. I've actually met people who have spoken to me, befriended me, and then I've been upfront and honest with them about smoking weed, and they've never spoke to me again, which I find really disappointing. Really, really disappointing. Again, I don't like mentioning names of people because it's unfair. You know, these people have got their reasons for whatever purpose. But it's so disappointing. The fact is that you disregard someone of their personal preferences after you've met them. I'm a pretty much an outgoing guy. I'll talk to anybody. I've got no prejudices against anybody, you know, regardless of what sex, colour, creed, nationality, space, alien, whatever you want to call yourself nowadays. I don't give a fuck. I really don't. I never have and I never will. But the stigma behind people smoking cannabis needs to stop. People need to get behind each other and say, hey, look, you know, how's it affected you? People need to be upfront and honest about it. But can we be? Can we be upfront and honest without people looking upon everybody and going, oh, they're weed smokers, oh, that shit stinks? I'm telling you now, I would rather live next door to a family that smokes cannabis than a family that drinks every day. Because that poor family that's got 4 kids, the old man's on the drink 24/7, the wife's on the drink 24/7, always arguing, always shouting, the kids are always crying. People might go, oh yeah, you're generalising here. Unfortunately, I'm not generalising, I'm speaking from experience. I've lived in, fucking hell, I've got to be pushing at least 20 properties now, across Essex, all over the place. And I've lived next door to probably 5 or 6 different families where the adults are consistently drinking. And let's put it this way, they're never happy households. Never. There's always an argument to be had. There's always an issue. There's always parties. The kids are always up till late crying, screaming. Alcoholism is more of a problem in this country than cannabis ever will be. And that is a fact. My personal fact, by the way, it isn't, you know, worldwide fact. That's what I think because it's what I've seen and it's what I continue to push for. I'll continue to push for more sanctions on people drinking and less sanctions on cannabis. Opening pubs, I'm all for it. I think pubs are an integral part of British society, absolutely. But when you go into a regular shop and you can buy a bottle of vodka, which is at 45% for a tenner, that's a problem. That is a problem. Because this is what happens. You see it in Southend Centre on a regular basis. You'll see some homeless person or whatever person, you know, I can't always say that they're homeless because sometimes they're not. But you'll see them go begging, they'll get their handful of change and they go straight in the off licence and they buy alcohol. Now, it's sad. It really is sad. Now, it's again, there's a responsibility of shop owners to turn these people down, because the more that they sell to these people, the more that we have to put up with it on our streets on a regular basis. I said it with Carly and James a couple of weeks ago when they come on. You walk along Southend now and it's just people drinking out of cans, people drinking out of bottles, people asking for money, people asking for fags. These people are desperate. But why are they? Because they need their fix. They've gone so far down the rabbit hole, they're now resorting to badgering strangers on a regular basis for money. And then that turns into more alcoholism. And you see it at the parks, at the benches, everywhere. You see them all together. It's like when you go to school and you see all the popular kids sitting on the bench together, you know. But now it's all the homeless. And, it pains my heart to see it happen. It really does. So what we need to do now, I think, as a county, which would be nice, is to focus on removing alcoholism from our streets. The clubs are all closed down. Clubs, that's going to be a thing of the past. Until this COVID thing's gone, clubs are going to be non-existent. I think it should stay that way. I think it's pretty pointless having a club. I think house parties need to be put out there a little bit more, because you can only mix with people that you know. You're not going to be mixing with any strangers, and then you can at least set your own house rules of how many people that you come in, what you want people to do. You're all wearing masks. You don't have to wear masks. You can do this, you can do that. The club scene is pointless now. It really is. But I do advocate for live music in open areas. You've got the likes of Priory Park, you've got Wakering Rec, you've got fucking how many parks across Essex. You put all those live musicians in those parks, sell a select amount of tickets to a select amount of people, and you've got a live event without having to have the police on hand to deal with all the drunk pissheads that are falling out of the clubs fighting and being sick, and women fighting and throwing phones and handbags and God knows what else. And it seems that I'm battering the alcohol side of things a bit too much, and I hate saying it because I like it, but it's not as good as cannabis. There's more benefits to smoking or ingesting cannabis than there is to drinking alcohol. There is. If you get the facts up, you'll see it for yourself. You really will. So, moving forward now, I'm hoping to get a couple more people on. I'm hoping the actual recording is a little bit better this time. I've tried to do a little bit of tweaking. There will be an echo on it. I'm sorry. I'm saving up for extra bits to do me studio in. It will come eventually. I promise. I really do. But I think that I won't stop with this cannabis advocacy. I really won't. I'm going to keep going on and on and on about it. And I really want to push for it. I really think we can make a difference. People who are on the bandwagon for this, I think, need to get on it as well. Promote it. Be honest about it. Talk about it. It's not something that we should be hiding away from. Yes, it's illegal, but it's a ridiculous law. Ridiculous. I said it before. How much hemp can you make paper with? Stop cutting down trees. Use hemp. You can make clothes. You can make oils for cooking, for ailments, for everything. There's so much fucking stuff that you can use. Hello, world. Fucking come on, wake up. We can do this. But it takes a joint effort. I'm only one man with one voice. I think people need to stand up who are cannabis smokers and say we've had enough of being scrutinised for something that doesn't kill you and doesn't immediately harm your mental health. It needs to change, it really does. Well, I hope you've enjoyed listening to me having a little rant about the cannabis side of things and alcohol. I shared a little bit of a personal story there as well. Hopefully people take that on board, and I don't know, you can take it which way you want, really. It makes no odds to me. But I would like to hear from people. I haven't had any comments on any of the videos that I've had recently, so if you think that my content's shit or you think it's good, either or, let me know. You know, I'm not going to change me, but if there's something that you want me to discuss, or if there's something you think that's worth mentioning that I can get out there, then hit me up. Feel free to comment on there. Any rude shit or any inflammatory stuff is just going to get pulled and removed. So, you know, I'm all for criticism, but if you're going to start calling specific people names or start putting like dirty websites and shit like that on the comments, it's just going to get removed. I've had to do it a couple of times already. So, you know, actual comments that are relevant would be absolutely welcome. Also, I checked out the old analytics on YouTube, and quite surprised. 80% of the people that have listened to me so far haven't subscribed. For whatever reason, doesn't matter. But if you feel that you would subscribe more to my content for whatever reason, then let me know. You know, like, share, subscribe, do what you've got to do. I'm not one of these people who go, oh, can you, if you send me a tenner, I'll do you an emoji. Or if you send me this, I'll do this. I'm not out here begging for money. I'm out here trying to put points across that matter to people and interview interesting people at the same time. So, what I'll say to you is, moving forward, I'm going to keep putting this out there with the cannabis side of things. And if there's anyone out there that's listened that would like to come on and actually debate me about cannabis, I'm all for it. Really, really am. Especially if you're against it. By having someone in that's against the grain of what I think brings up a better topic of discussion, because we can see both sides of the coin. And I'm all for that. I'm not all for just like, yeah, listen to me and that's the end of it. Nah. The world doesn't work that way. We need to sit down and listen in conversation and listen to each other rather than just try and drown everybody else out. So, no, everyone listen to me. No, everybody listen to everybody. And then we've got a better chance of progressing and moving forward. So, that's the Social Monkey number 4, Cannabis Time. And hopefully I'll hear again from all of you soon. Take care. Good night, much love, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.